Hello, class. This is Chapter 2, Section 1, The First People. Our four main ideas for this section are here. So, number one, scientists study the remains of early humans to learn about prehistory. And remember, prehistory just means the time before there was writing. Hominids and early humans first appeared in East Africa millions of years ago. We're going to see kind of what happened with that and the progression from there. 3. Stone Age tools grew more complex as time passed. And 4. Hunter-gatherer societies developed language, art, and religion. So we're going to see that these hunter-gatherer societies were a lot more advanced than one might think. All right, so the first section is on scientists studying remains. Two types of scientists are discussed here in this section. The first being archaeologists, and the second anthropologists. So historians rely on the work of archaeologists and anthropologists to study prehistory. And again, prehistory is the time before there was writing. So you can see here some information on archaeologists and anthropologists. On the right here, kind of shows some information about the job. They conduct excavation, which means they dig stuff up. They handle artifacts and they research archives out there. And it says here that to be an archaeologist, you need to be an active learner and comfortable with public speaking, writing, and presentations. On the left here, it talks about anthropologists. It says they dedicate several years to working on an individual project, so they might spend a lot of time in one place, digging stuff up and studying a certain group of people. They might have to be hiking and climbing, often carrying equipment, so it could be a laborious job, meaning you got to do a lot of labor. Have to have analytical and investigative skills and preparing and publishing research. In 1959, Mary and Louis Leakey discovered 1.5 million year old hominid bones. So here are a couple of pictures of the Leakeys. On the left would be probably closer to that 1959 date when they were younger in East Africa, finding hominid bones. And on the right, a picture of them a little bit older. And the ability to walk on two legs was a key step in human development because when they didn't need to use their arms for walking, it allowed them to use their arms for other things like making tools and holding things and creating things and all that. All right, the next section is on hominids and early humans. As time passed, hominids became more like modern humans. So you can see the progression up here on the top. Again, hominids being our ancestors, right? So you can see the progression as it goes to the right becomes more and more like Homo sapiens today. Homo erectus, which was one of these early hominids along the way to becoming humans, learned how to control fire, as you can see here on the bottom left. And today we all belong to the Homo sapiens group. Everyone. The next section was on Stone Age tools. So the Stone Age was divided into three periods based on the tools used. The first tools were sharpened rocks for cutting meat. So you can see here kind of another progression. On the bottom left is the more primitive early forms of tools that were used where they would they'd flake off parts of rocks to create sharpened edges, and then they'd get more, they would do more chipping off and flaking to shape the rock more specifically. Then you'd have arrowheads, eventually blades, and then finally they would create spears and stuff like that. And so this sort of graph is just showing that as time went on, the complexity of the tools became more complex. Hand axes came next, and they were used to break trees, dig and cut animal hide. So hand axes for breaking trees, digging, and cutting animal hide. The final section was on hunter-gatherer societies. And societies formed where men hunted and women gathered, so they had their specific jobs. Language developed, leading to better hunting, relationships, art, and religion. So on the right kind of shows, it's a cartoony picture, but with language, it just opened up the opportunity for so many other advancements, right? Such as, better hunting, so they can they can communicate on the hunt, like you can see here in the top left with the hunting of this mammoth. Relationships, better relationships are formed if you could talk, obviously, and you could communicate. The relationships are going to be more meaningful. Art, right? So, like you can see here on this diagram, someone's creating art inside this cave, and religion, even so, spirituality, and if you can communicate through language and writing. And at this point, with pictures, not so much writing, but with pictures, um, you know, you can pass on ideas and pass on religious or spiritual beliefs. And one big theme we're going to see in this first chapter is making art on cave walls, which scientists and historians suspect had to do with teaching about hunting or telling stories. And so the big idea for this section is that prehistoric people learned to adapt to their environment, to make simple tools, to use fire, and to use language.